We're the only ones who have snow in front of our property.
Hi there. I got all the way over to the chalet and was trotting up the stairs onto the beautiful deck off the master bedroom and realized I have no microphone. So I will speak louder and I'll turn up the volume when I edit. I didn't want to go trotting all the way back to the homestead to get my microphone. Now this video is going to be about my relationship with my youngest sister. First, I'll bring you an update on the goings-on at the homestead. Owen's continuing to work on that road beside the fence. He took out the falling down piece and replaced that, so that's good. And right now he's working on the horse shelters, barricading them in a bit so that the horses have somewhere to go in to get out of snowstorms and such. And speaking of, I know that the horse I was working with, Hank, fell through. I am tomorrow at 1:30 meeting a horse named Sunny, and I am hopeful. He's said to be a very kind, very loving, very huggy kind of a horse. He is in his early 20s, so that's perfect. Somebody for me to ride on the trails in the forest, somebody for Annie to hang out with, so a friend for her. So I'm hopeful for this meeting tomorrow. And I'll let you know how it goes. Back to my sister. Now, growing up when I was a kid at home, I didn't know her at all. I have no memories of her growing up in the same house, other than we were kind of all crowded in, all 5 of us kids and 2 parents in a 2-bedroom home. It was pretty squishy. And she's about 10.5 years younger than I am. So when I was going through the drama of being pregnant and getting married at 17 and 18, she was 7. So didn't have anything much to do with her at that point. Now, my relationship with her started when she was about 17, and I was needing some babysitting my son and daughter when I was doing coursework for my nursing degree. And she agreed to come over in the summer and babysit. But even then, I just saw decisions that was being made that weren't the wisest. And I think the most egregious one is when she let my son, who was 5, go off with an older boy, random older boy. And I came home from work and I couldn't find my son, and I asked her where he was, and she said, oh, he went with his boy. And I said, well, who? She had no idea of the name or where they went or anything. And so I was in a bit of a panic until they all returned, and it seemed safely. But her judgment wasn't the greatest. So I didn't lean on her very much at all for babysitting after that. Oh, another case, she had taken the kids to the park. There was some broken glass on the grass. She picked up what she could see and then let the kids run around barefoot. So as you can probably guess, my son got a big old gash in his toe. We had to take him to the hospital to get stitches and hold him down as he's screaming, because you can imagine what that needle of freezing going into a toe does. And yeah, so then she wanted to get a job but she was afraid that Mom and Dad would take her money because she wanted to leave home as quickly as she could as well. And I could understand that because all us kids also wanted that. And I said, well, get a bank account, even in the town that we're in. I said, put the money in there. You don't have to tell them that you've done this, but if they ask you, don't lie to them. Now, when I told her to do this, I was in front of my husband at the time and my younger brother. Flash forward, and she decided, instead of runaway money or escape money, she decided to buy her fancy boots with this money. Now, how do you hide these fancy boots in a house where you're living with your parents? And so, of course, she was being quizzed as to where she got these boots or the money to buy them. And she right away threw me under the bus that I told her to lie. And well, then I got the call and I got given an earful from the Bible with the verses and telling me how I was teaching my sister how to lie and how she was losing her jewels in her crown in heaven and all that kind of stuff. Now I was pissed. So husband, brother, and I went to mom and dad's farm to have a conversation with my little sister in front of them, because that's not the case at all of how things went. Mom and dad allowed her to hide in her bedroom. She didn't come out the whole time we were there. We explained ourselves. They didn't listen to a word we had to say, any of us three. I was the terrible person, as I always was, and my sister got to hide in the safety of her room. Now, years later, she confessed to Mom and Dad what really happened there, but nothing came of it. They never mentioned anything to me or apologized or anything for their behavior. And yeah, so as time went on, she would randomly be calling, she would phone, she would get very abusive. Name calling, yelling, just nasty. And then if I didn't say what she wanted me to say, she'd hang up the phone. Now, that was back in the day where you had the satisfaction of slamming down on a phone, not like us cell phone users. It's not very loud to go boop. It's a big old slam with the phone, right? And so there came a time where she was like wanting to be a friend to me, like I was with my next sister. And I said, if you can promise not to be abusive, if you can promise not to name call me, if you can promise not to abuse me. Well, she refused to do that, and that was the end of that. So I hadn't spoken to her at that point in 2 years. Now, somewhere in there, she had gotten herself checked over by the doctors. She landed up in a psych hospital. She got put on antipsychotic meds. She got diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. And there came a time where she was back on the farm because she had quit cold turkey her meds. Her friends in the city had told her that she didn't need these meds, that all she needed was vitamin water. And so they gave her this vitamin water to drink, and she went off her meds, and she went off her bubble. She went back to the farm. She lost everything she had in the city. She was driving Mom and Dad crazy. She'd jump into the bed between them, and Mom was on the phone with me, blaming me for all this because it was clearly my fault. And I'm like, how can this be my fault? Because you're a nurse, they say. And I'm like, I haven't spoken to her in 2 years. I had nothing to do with any of this. And well, that didn't matter to them because somehow I would have sent it through my siblings to her. Somehow it was clearly my fault, and they wouldn't let that go. And they would say that it was still my fault today if you asked them, because as of the last conversations on that topic, it was still my fault. So that's why I kind of called myself the scapegoat in the whole bloody family, because if something were to go wrong, it is somehow my fault, and that was my role in the family. Yeah, so it didn't have much to do with her. And then I found out that we found out that she was pregnant. And let's see. It was a little worrisome because of her mental illness, and she could barely look after herself. And came to find out, she said she had deliberately gotten herself pregnant because she was felt bad that she hadn't provided a grandchild to Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad who don't give a crap about any of their grandkids. So she really didn't have to do this to herself. But there we are, the baby's on the way. And again, she had been on her very strong medication for 6 months of her pregnancy. And I guess she had some sort of checkup with the doctor. The doctor realized what she was on, so he changed her meds. And when he changed her meds, she went off her bubble, landed up in a psych hospital again. So the head psychiatrist called us to come in, the whole family, because he wanted to put guardianship on her, and he wanted one of the family to do it. So we all showed up for this. Sister came in for the crow's nest. Brother and his wife flew over from Winnipeg because they had decided that God said that they were going to have this baby that she was carrying. And we're like, at that point, we had nothing to do with nothing, right? So we have this meeting. We all decide we don't want this job of guardian. So he was going to put a public guardian on her. So everybody goes their separate ways. My sister finds a man while she's walking her dog, and they hit it off, and they decide to get married right away because she was concerned about this guardianship issue. She really didn't know this man, but now he's her husband and her guardian. And that was when we were flying back from Newfoundland and popped into Winnipeg to visit with my brother and his wife, and they were telling about how when they take this baby home with them, they were not going to let this baby know who her birth mother was. They were going to put a hedge of protection around her and keep it all hush hush and secret. And basically, they're going to try to make our whole family lie to this child as she grew. Or at that point, we didn't know if it was a he or she, right? So baby gets born. The siblings in the middle report to social services. Social services apprehends baby from the NICU at the hospital, and Jasmine never does go home with my sister and her husband. Come to find out, she married herself a pedophile, and that was on his records, and that was one of the reasons why it was even harder to get Jasmine back into that home with my sister, because how do you put protections in place in a small town that would protect a child from a man such as that and a woman who can barely look after herself? And that was what was going under there. And for 3 years, we had to facilitate 3 times a week visitation to my sister. Now, we hit a big crisis within the first month of Jasmine being with us because she had pyloric stenosis and needed surgery. We whipped up to the hospital in Calgary, and we waited and waited while IV after IV went into that poor child's head. For my sister to give permission, because she was still the guardian, the only guardian, because nothing had happened in court yet to take that guardianship away. And she refused to sign permissions. She kind of taunted the social workers, said that they could talk to her lawyer. And well, come to find out she doesn't have a lawyer. And meanwhile, still waiting and waiting day after day while Jasmine's getting her nutrition through her IVs in her head. And finally, the doctors were just about to have had it, and we're going to have 2 surgeons sign a thing saying that basically working around my sister, and she finally agreed and signed whatever form she had to sign. And I tell you, I was so angry with her and so frustrated because Owen and I were there at the bedside that whole time, watching that poor child, holding that child down while they changed the IVs out, listening to her scream, just feeling helpless and just angry. And that's how our renewal of relationship with my sister came to be. So eventually we get to the adoption process, and she seemed to think that we were going to continue the 3 times a week visitation, and we're like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That's not how life goes. That's not how adoption is. We arranged we set it up so that we could do every 3 months a visitation with her, whether it's at her house an hour away or in the city at a play place or whatever. And we had decided that, excuse me, we had decided that as long as my sister was behaving herself and not being abusive, and as long as Jasmine was enjoying herself, that we would continue this arrangement year after year after year. And it went not too bad. My sister couldn't take even 2 hours of a visitation. At about 1.5, she'd call it and call her bus, and they'd take off. She just, it just wasn't in her. But there was one big hiccup when Jasmine was 7, and it was Christmas, and we had our family Christmas, and we invited my little sister to come too and to stay overnight. To spend, we thought, here's a nice huge chunk of time that she can spend with Jasmine, right? Well, she didn't. She spent all of her time, most of her time, wanting to talk with me, wanting to coffee with me. She would wave Jasmine off when she wanted to play, and she just wanted to have coffee and gossip about mom and dad with me. And then at one point she was talking to Jasmine about in her anemia, the fact that my sister had anemia, and that Jasmine needed to do all these things for her iron supplementation, and she needed to drink all this orange juice, she's saying. And I'm like looking at Jasmine, who's like, her eyes are glazing over. And and I said, well, when it comes time, when Jasmine's having her periods, and if there's a problem with her iron, we'll certainly discuss it and handle on it. And I said, but for that matter, Jasmine really doesn't like orange juice at all. She doesn't like it at all, period. She's not going to drink it. And I thought that was the end of it. But with mental illnesses, you sometimes step on eggshells without meaning to. And apparently that was a big eggshell crunch. A few weeks later, I get this ream of a text thing, and she was just pissed. How dare I teach Jasmine to be sassy? How dare I undermine her authority with Jasmine? And on and on and on it went. And I'm like, oh my Lord. She goes, you are not my sister. You are just my supervisor. And here's like, oh great. I got the other family already throwing me away. And here's this one. I'm not her sister too. And it's like, good God. So I was a little torqued, but Jasmine was still enjoying herself. What happened was the visitations that we set up was with Owen and my sister and Jasmine. And my sister had to figure out a way to get to Red Deer and meet at this play place, this McDonald's Treehouse play place. Just a wonderful play place. And I know that Jasmine...
Let's go down again!
My sister, not so much, but that's what we had, and we did that for a year until I figured that I could handle again dealing with my sister. So for a couple of years, it's chugging along. Everything seems to be going okay until this past March. Now, 8 months before that, she started dating a fella that lived in Rimbey. Now, he's one of the, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the trucker convoys that occurred in Canada. He wants Alberta to split to become part of the United States. He's that guy. I know because I went searching on the Facebook to see his stuff, and it was like, holy cow. But anyway, and I'm wondering if a lot of what she was doing to me in March had to do with 8 months of dating this guy. So, have you ever walked into a room, you're supposed to be there, you walk in, but you get this feeling that something, it's off, it's unwelcoming, well, I got that gut feeling I should have turned around and walked out, but I didn't. So, and at that point, Jasmine had just turned 9, so we were just bringing out the cupcakes and whatnot and hanging out there. And the first thing that happens is my sister stands over me. I'm sitting on the couch and she's standing over me. She is 2 inches taller than me. And she's like giving me crap because she said that I had brought Jasmine's birth father back into the picture, that it's all my fault, and how dare I? Don't you know that he is just not a safe person? And just angry. And I'm like, the only one I reached out to was an aunt who was safe, and the grandfather who lived in this town too, and we did meet with him. But the birth father, I've had nothing to do with. I have not reached out to him. I have not spoke to him. I said he has made no effort or desire to even meet Jasmine. I said that the only reason this man came back into our lives a couple years ago was that my sister herself had gotten herself back into a relationship with him, and in fact got engaged to him and moved to BC, the coast, with him. It had nothing to do with me. And boy, that she was so angry with me then, because I clearly gave the wrong answer. Somehow this was supposed to be my fault. So she goes off into the kitchen, and of course Jasmine's watching this play-by-play, right? And I'm just, oh God. And then she's sitting beside me, and she's preparing to make some sort of speech or something to do with the birthday. And I had mentioned something about, well, it's kind of good that Jasmine's not a girly, because, you know, she's been easy to raise, easy to look after. And she rounded on me again. You are her mother. You make her wear the girly clothes. You make her wear pink. You make her behave. You force her. She was saying, you force her. And of course, Jasmine's hearing this. You force her. And I'm like, I will not force her. She does not like pink. She does not like dollies. She does not like much of girly anything. And she's always been this way since she could talk. Like before she could talk, we had her in dresses. We didn't know she didn't like dresses. She likes dragons and dinosaurs and monster trucks, that kind of a thing. That is our Jasmine. She is not a girly girl. And my sister was just angry that I wasn't forcing her. Up she goes into the kitchen, and she's mad. And she's in there longer. And I could hear Jasmine talking to her, going, why are you fighting with your sister? And Jasmine's trying to make the peace between us, right? She's inviting my sister to play a game with her, like Trouble. You know, you punch that little button, and it, you know, the game Trouble. And just trying to divert my sister's attention. And it didn't work very good. The third thing that I failed on, she again stood over me and goes, what are you going to do when I move to the United States? I'm like, I don't even know the right answer here. In my head, I'm thinking, does she figure I'm going to drive Jasmine all the way to the United States every 3 months? Yeah, not. But I didn't say that. So I said, you're an adult person. You can move to wherever you want to move. Wrong answer. She said, I knew you wouldn't miss me. And she's just mad again. And I'm like, oh my God, I just can't. I'm not answering anything. I was just shaking because I wanted to say so much, but biting my tongue. And it was at the hour and a half mark. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. I have to leave. She's yelling from the kitchen, I'm entitled to 2 hours visitation. And in my not so greatest move, I went, you're entitled to what I give you. And that was it for the conversation, because it's the truth of the matter. Visitations in an adoption is up to the adoptive parents. It always is. And we had done it year after year after year because we thought it was important to Jasmine. And we were trying to be kind to my sister. And I finally had enough, and 15 minutes early, I said, we gotta go. And packed up all the belongings. I was out in the little porch area putting on my shoes. Jasmine went up the little stairs to the doorway into my sister's house to hug my sister goodbye, as is her habit always. And my sister slammed the door in her face. And I just, my jaw hit the ground. I'm like, wow, this is just the most awful visit, which is awful. And I looked at Jasmine, and I'm like, I don't know how she handled it. We just got into my vehicle, and we headed home. Now, home's about an hour away. And that whole trip, now Jasmine was in the car seat behind us. behind me. And we're driving along, and she's venting and venting and venting, and she couldn't believe what she was hearing. She couldn't believe what was going on. And she's back there going, "Mom, I don't think she's a safe person for me." And I'm driving. And she goes, "Mom, and I don't think she's a safe person for you." And she said something about visitation in summer because June would have been the next set time. And so I said, "Yeah, well, the next visit is in this coming summer." She goes, No, summer next year, after I'm 10, she said. And yeah, she was just so upset. And so when we got home, I went into my rocking chair and I put her with me, and she had such a headache. She had such a headache. She was so upset, and she has not let this go. I told Jazz, I said, I'll let your birth mother know your decision, and I will explain to her what happened and how you feel about things. I said, but if you change your mind in the meantime between now and 2026 summer, you can always change your mind and we will make arrangements, and it's whatever you want, honey. Nope. Next summer, that's all she wants, and she brings it up often, and we try to divert her because she does have autism and she does focus on stuff and she fixate. So we're trying to get her to not fixate on that so much. And a few weeks later, my sister texted me like nothing ever happened. And so I try to figure out what on earth I'm going to say. So I explained how things were from my point of view, from walking into that house, what was said. I explained what happened to Jasmine with the door getting slammed in her face. I explained what Jasmine was saying on the whole trip home, heard the decision she's made. It was this long thing. And her response was that years ago, I pressured her into getting the COVID shot. I'm like, really? After all this, and it's the COVID shot. All I could think of was, it's this boyfriend. This boyfriend would have asked her at some point, "Did you get the COVID shot?" And she would have said yes. And by then she would have heard how he felt about it, and she would have thrown me under the bus, right? Because I'm just this handy dandy. And right now, that's where it sits. I every now and again check in with Jasmine. She has not changed her mind. My sister does. Every now and again, I send pictures, right? The Halloween picture of Jasmine taking horse riding lessons and that kind of stuff. But I'm not sure exactly where this is all going to go. It's up to Jasmine actually on this one, because she is not feeling safe with her birth mother right now. And her birth mother is not understanding why that is. And I know that this isn't as emotionally painful for me as it is with my other siblings, because I was close to them, they were my friends. This is awkward and difficult in a different way because there's a connection through Jasmine. And so it'll be a time will tell on that. But I just thought I'd catch you up on this bit of our family drama. And that's it. The siblings, I don't have a relationship with any of them right now. And I'm not sure where it's going to change. But I'm going to do the best I can. And we're going to do the best for Jasmine that we can. But we are just absolutely making sure that she is safe and not going to be abused in any way. And getting a door slammed in your face, as far as I'm concerned, is an abuse. That was just not good. And so, hope to see you next time soon. And I am Annette from Carpe, Omnia After 60. Take care of yourself.